the first and that although the start and the thunder
Que sopa familia, what's up? Bienvenidos and welcome to a very special edition of Panama Tours. The show where we discuss all things related to living your best life in Panama. I'm your host and guide, Big Will, and today will be a special episode. This one is all about us and why we chose to escape the chaos of life in the United States for a more peaceful life in Panama. For the 15 or 20 of you who saw our very first show 3 years ago, this will be a repeat. But for most of you who have come on board after that one, here we go. So, let's begin by discussing our lives in the United States prior to our exodus. I'm from North Carolina, attended college in Atlanta, and stayed there for a decade after school before moving to the D.C. area, where I met my wife Sonia, who was a native Washingtonian. We met in the late 90s and were married in the early 2000s. We built what we thought was a pretty good life together. We had pretty good jobs, paying us each six-figure salaries. We had a gorgeous 3-bedroom townhouse in a really nice neighborhood in Prince George's County, Maryland. We lived right off the 9th tee of the Lake Presidential Golf Course. We had nice cars, including my midlife crisis baby, my 2019 Ford Mustang 5.0 GT Coupe. Woo! We did nice things like attending swanky black tie events like the Congressional Black Caucus weekend, or even an inauguration party for President-elect Barack Obama. We traveled internationally when we had the chance. We had a pretty good life, right? Here's what we also had: a ton of stress trying to navigate life in the U.S. and the stress of trying to maintain keeping your head above water while living in one of the most expensive cities in the country and dealing with some of the worst traffic in a place that generates stress pretty well. There are multiple factors that led to our decision. Let's cover each one in more detail.
Are you dreaming of a new start in the heart of paradise? Panamazing Tours brings you the ultimate guide to making Panama your new home. Our Panamazing Relocation Guide is your first step to a seamless move. Packed with insider tips, real estate treasures, and essential connections to local healthcare providers, we've got you covered. Download now and dive into a wealth of knowledge that'll make your transition smooth and exciting. Whether it's for a fresh start, retirement, or the adventure of a lifetime, let our guide help you find your new home. Visit us at panamazingtours.com and download your Panamazing Relocation Guide today. Your dream life in Panama awaits.
The great James Baldwin once said, "To be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time." As the son of an African Methodist preacher who was active in the civil rights movement, I was born into consciousness at a very young age. I grew up around the civil rights icons that are now enshrined in the Smithsonian African American Museum. I was raised to be conscious of what we faced and to have the skills to combat it. Let's just say that racism in the United States is one of the biggest factors for me. It is pervasive, insidious, and extremely stressful to live with. Suffice it to say that I've experienced racism firsthand my entire life in the United States, from grade school all the way through my career in corporate America. And it's getting worse. The U.S. is on a steady march back to the days of Jim Crow. We are denied the ability to learn about our history, which, by the way, is American history too. We are denied the ability to wear our natural hair. We are denied the ability to vote. We are denied mortgages. We are over-policed. We can't even star in a movie about make-believe characters without someone complaining about woke. That's the United States. So how is Panama different? Let's start with a basic premise. Racism is a global phenomenon. There is no escaping it, unfortunately. That said, there are places where it's not weaponized. There are places where it's not deadly. Panama is one of those places. For example, Their police do not kill citizens. That's what I mean when I say it's not deadly. In the U.S., we've been forced to tell people that Black Lives Matter because American law enforcement routinely kills Black citizens for minor infractions. There's driving while Black, like with Philando Castile and Sandra Bland. There's dying for a couple of cigarettes, like Eric Garner. There's even the death for skipping and being happy while singing like this young man in Denver. Look, Panama is 96% Black and brown. Panamanians look like me, and their police don't kill them, so I'm safe for just being here. Moving to Panama has affected us tremendously. We no longer face the death by 1,000 cuts from daily microaggressions. I don't feel nervous around police here. These police are actually officer friendly. They actually help people. It's amazing to watch. We're able to heal from 5 decades of continuous systemic racial oppression. Panama just doesn't treat race the way the U.S. does, and we are very thankful for that. This is another huge factor in our decision to escape the U.S. We were killing ourselves just to maintain our heads above water in the American rat race, living in D.C. The financial stress in the U.S. was the very reason why Panama even entered our consciousness as a place to live. One of my friends and I were discussing possible retirement locations since we both knew we couldn't afford to remain in the D.C. area without income. Let me start here and state the obvious in case you haven't noticed. There is an incredible premium to be paid for the luxury of being an American. You are taxed no matter where you are on the planet. You tend to pay more than the rest of the planet for almost everything that you consume: food, housing, cell phones, cable, healthcare, travel, even eggs. Last year when they were telling y'all about a bird flu driving up the price of eggs, we probably didn't even stop to think about whether this flu was a worldwide phenomenon. Guess what? It wasn't. 6 months after they told you it was a flu, egg producers reported the highest earnings ever. This is the cycle in the United States. They claim inflation is driving prices in January, and by August, the business session is reporting record profits for whomever told you to lie about inflation. So even with 2 great paying jobs, we were drowning in debt and struggling to maintain. And as workers supporting the federal government, unnecessary government shutdowns by the Trump administration didn't help us at all. That move translated into 2 months of lost pay for both of us. Even my real estate side hustle business came to a stop because the feds couldn't approve loans. We couldn't verify the income of my federal employee house buying clients. The cost of living difference in Panama was very attractive to us as we knew we only needed $3,000 to $4,000 a month in income to live well here. By moving here, we have successfully cut our living expenses by about 2/3 on close to the same income that we had in the DC area. And now we don't feel stressed out about bills. Our debt was paid off before we left. Life is wonderful again as the cost of living difference allows us to do more than we used to. More travel, more fancy brunches, more money in savings, and we don't fight about bills anymore. Even our U.S. tax burden is much less as expats since we get to exempt the first $120,000 of our individual income tax with the foreign earned income exclusion for people who live 330 days out of a year overseas. Also, Panama doesn't tax our U.S.-based income, so it's a pretty sweet deal. Cool. Oh my, this was full of landmines, right? Look, the current political climate in the U.S. is terrifying to say the least. I've worked in the federal government arena since Bill Clinton was in office. I've seen both parties in control and how it works normally. Normal apparently left the building in 2016 when Trump was elected. As workers supporting the feds, we started seeing wide-scale rule changes that we had never witnessed before with new administrations. It was scary for career workers to witness. For example, you already know that they killed the Ebola response team that Obama created. You probably don't know that in addition to that, we also lost entire scientific staffs at EPA, NIH, CDC, and many other places. We lost scientists to help keep our air clean, our water clean, ones that research cancer cures, working on pandemics, and much more. Add to this the fact that the word compromise is no longer a thing in our government. It's all or nothing, and there will never be a time when all Americans agree on anything. Government works only because people are willing to compromise to move forward. So the very work of government slows down too as a result. We were willing to tough it out up until January 6th happened. That was truly terrifying. Watching people who call themselves patriots storming the U.S. Capitol, seeing them build a gallows on the National Mall. Let me stop right here and just say that my experience supporting DHS taught me that there were many things not in place that should have been in place on January 6th. Look, I could be wrong. This is only my opinion, but this all smelled like an inside job to me. The temperature of this aspect has only increased since we've been gone. Some states have made it legal to kill others who may be protesting some political actions. They're even pardoning convicted murderers simply to score political points. The impact of all the divisiveness on your mental health is huge and cannot be understated. Our stress levels are way down simply because we are now someplace without all the fighting and division. They have political parties here, but the differences between them are not based on silly values things. Here, everyone loves kids, so they help kids. They don't seek to deny access to others who don't share their faith or even their sexual orientation. We just went through the first presidential election here, our first presidential election here, and it was much different. They aren't even allowed to put up campaign ads until 6 months prior to the election, and then they took them down almost immediately afterwards. People here weren't fighting each other. They just did their civic duty. For this factor, let me start here. Gun proliferation in the United States has created a monster. We have more guns than people. There's a mass shooting almost every day someplace in the U.S., and violent crime is outrageously high. One would think all that freedom and justice would translate to less crime, right? But no. One day while still living in the States, I watched The Hunger Games. Great movie, y'all, right? That night, while watching the news of the latest mass shooting event, it occurred to me that as an American, I was actually living the Hunger Games. Look, every day I was part of a lottery to decide who would be tributes sacrificed for the good of the Capitol in the name of Second Amendment rights. And I had zero choice in the matter as long as we were living in the States. We had to take our chances in that daily lottery, same as everyone else. So we got out of the game altogether. The crime rate in Panama is much different. They don't have many homicides. They don't have mass shootings at all. They have guns here, but very few people own them. The crime here is mostly petty crime and fraud, things that wouldn't even make the news back home. Overall, this is an extremely safe place to be. Even single women enjoy safety here. Parents allow their kids to play outside and roam the neighborhood like we used to do as kids because crimes against children just don't happen that much. I'm no longer living on edge and marking safe route exit options every time I go to a restaurant or a movie theater or even church. I'm no longer paying attention to bulges in pockets like I used to. I'm relaxed now, tranquilo, calm. What's the going rate for peace and calm these days anyway? Healthcare access was the last major factor in our decision to escape. We're in our 50s and see doctors more and more now. We had great health insurance in the States, but that meant, like many, we lived life seeking permission from bean counters to get healthcare services when needed. And the last thing you need when sick is to play a game of Mother Nature with insurance providers. Like most Americans, we saw our primary care physician first, and often for the necessary follow-up exams needed just to fill the prescription that you just received a couple of months ago. And of course, you had to stop by the primary care doctor to get a permission slip to see a specialist. We don't deal with any of that foolishness now. We are free to go directly to a specialist when needed, and it doesn't take weeks to get an appointment. Most appointments are the same day or the next day. We don't need prescriptions for pharmaceuticals here in Panama, so there's no kickback relationship between doctor and farmer like here in the States. You will need a prescription if it's a narcotic or some kind of mood-altering thing, but there are two healthcare systems here, public and private. Public is exactly what you think, open to all. Even non-citizens can get care here. And the public system is good. It's public, so you might have to wait for a procedure, and you won't be in a private room, but they won't kick you out of the hospital to heal at home like in the States. And for us, we use the private system mostly anyway because we just pay out of pocket for services and it's faster. The costs here of paying out of pocket are generally less than our copay was in the States, and these doctors take their time with you. My first primary care visit here was 2 hours long. Y'all, I hadn't spent 2 hours with my doctor in Maryland if you combine all the visits over 15 years. I never saw her for more than 5 minutes at a time. The doctors here also explain much more to you. They really want to make sure you understand what's happening. It's not a factory like insurance has turned the U.S. healthcare system into. And these doctors make house calls. They give us their WhatsApp information so we can call and text them anytime. I had my wisdom tooth pulled a couple months ago. The oral surgeon spent 2 hours before the procedure to calm my anxiety. Then the next day asked how I was recovering. He even asked me to show him my jaw so he could see how the swelling was going down. Look, when I had a wisdom tooth pulled in the U.S., I never even met the oral surgeon. And I definitely didn't get any follow-up calls from him or my dentist who referred me to him for that matter. By the way, in terms of facilities, the offices and hospitals here are top-notch. They have names you will recognize like Johns Hopkins. My wisdom tooth was extracted on the 26th floor of the luxury Panama Clinic, a high-rise hospital with a shopping mall, grocery stores, a Marriott Residence Inn in the same building so families can be comfortable while visiting their loved ones. Y'all, I was overlooking the Panama Bay in a modern environment with floor-to-ceiling windows. My dentist office in the States overlooked a parking lot in a strip mall. Go figure. These 5 factors all played a role in our decision to escape the chaos. This is our list. Yours may be different, and that's okay. The decision to leave is a personal one, and people do it for different reasons. Don't feel like you have to fit in someone else's design to make your plans work. Work your plan. In case you haven't noticed yet, we feel much better than we did 3 years ago. We have much less stress and worries now, so it paid off for us. Your mileage doing so may vary. Just be sure to search your feelings and make sure you are doing this for the right reasons. I certainly hope that you found some value in the show today, and if so, please do us the honor of liking and subscribing to help others find us and gain some value too. Please don't forget to check out our website if you're looking to relocate or even vacation here in Panama. We can definitely help you with that. Until next time, familia. Ciao.